All right, so in these next few slides, I'm actually going to try and explain how respiration works. So first we'll do the overview. Again, this is similar to photosynthesis, It's just backwards. So instead of starting with carbon dioxide and water, those are my products, right? And it's essentially the same process, just in reverse. So I'm going to start out by taking a glucose, and I'm going to break it in half to make two 3-carbon molecules. And that process is going to be called glycolysis. So I'll draw some more complicated pictures for those here as we go. But I want to understand that that glycolysis is happening in the cytoplasm of the cell, because the next two steps are actually going to happen in a mitochondria. And the mitochondria has its own parts, right? So it's just kind of this bean-shaped organelle that has some folded membrane inside of it, right? So I'll draw that picture the best that I can. That membrane itself that I just drew, actually I'm going to do that again because I can. That membrane itself is important because that's going to be where one of my processes is coming up is going to happen. So this membrane is called the inner mitochondrial membrane, and that's where my electron transport, which is actually the last step, is going to happen. But this next step that I'm going to draw, right, I have to take these 3-carbon molecules and turn them into carbon dioxide. Those reactions, that cycle, is going to take place in this matrix, this space that fills this inner mitochondrial membrane. So I got to put that label in here. This is actually going to be called the Krebs cycle. And that happens in the matrix of the mitochondria. So again, it's this orange space filling that inner mitochondrial membrane. And that inner mitochondrial membrane, again, that's where my electron transport is going to occur for respiration. And that electron transport is where I'm going to use oxygen and end up making water out of it. So again, matrix for the other label. This one you need to know it's called the inner mitochondrial membrane. Kind of a big, long word to spell. Chondrial membrane. So photosynthesis only had 3 parts, but that's because there were only 2 places where things happened, either on the thylakoid membranes or in the stroma. Here there's 3 parts because there's 3 places where things are happening. Because the cytoplasm, right, that part is happening outside of that mitochondria, whereas I actually have to, and it's part of the process, I have to move these 3-carbon molecules into that matrix before I can do that step, right? So I may or may not move those 3-carbon molecules into the mitochondria, and it's all dependent on whether I have oxygen or not. If I have oxygen, I will do that next step. I'll do the Krebs cycle. I'll do electron transport to finish everything off. But if I don't have any oxygen, I'm actually going to stop after glycolysis, and we'll talk about that more and why as we keep going. So it is actually important that oxygen is available to do the Krebs cycle, to do electron transport. Technically, I don't use oxygen in the Krebs cycle, but I still won't do it without oxygen available because it doesn't make any sense. So we'll talk about that as we keep going.